Don't you stop. Don't you say that that's all right. Don't you die in the light to be tormented in the dark, boy. Don't you bark. You bite. You bite. Cry. Cry. Ah! Ah!
I feel good. I knew that I would die.
Yeah, close. My name is Victor Cyrus, and I want to introduce y'all to the pen that bleeds, because every poem that I spit is a poem about me. So the poem I'm going to give to you today is called Beware the Wailing Woman. I said I never hit a woman. I said I never put my hands on her. I said I'm better than that. You know, I can't handle that. But that was her last time. Her last cry, her last scream, her last shred of pity that she would ever get from me. Don't even ask my permission to pee, because your existence means nothing to me. You see, but of course, she couldn't see that. You see, she was deaf to reality and ignorant to the fact that death was no longer a fear to me. You see, death row was just a sweet release of peace for me. You see, life couldn't afford me, because life wasn't consequence but mercy for an offense that I would gladly climb that barbed wire fence to let myself in for. You see, she thought my only weapon was pen and paper. But if she stepped to me again, I'm gonna beat her like a man and abuse her like a dog. And as good as it sounds to my mind and my heart, I'm screaming, God! God! How could I have ever loved Satan? And why is it that I'm falling in love with hatred? You see, why can't I stop daydreaming about beating her until they come to rescue her? Why can't I put my hands around her throat and watch life leave her as she chokes? Lord, why can't I break down the door, beat her like a whore, take a fist to her mother, back to her brothers, and back into her sisters, and leave her my little Mr. But why can't I get the word killer out of my vernacular? Lord, why is it that the pain that I want to inflict I can't even begin to depict? Lord, why did you make me a man? Because at least if I was a woman, I could have beat it with my bare hands and it would have been legal. Lord, I don't understand. Why did you save me before I was ever lost? Why did he save me before I could have ever gone off? Lord, why did you make me feel so feeble? Lord, why does obedience resemble weakness? Why does humility require silence when I want to pick up every kitchen appliance and apply it to her immediate silence? You see, I'm not... Lord, why does obedience resemble weakness? And why does humility require silence when I want to pick up every kitchen appliance and apply it to her immediate silence? Lord, why? You see, I'm not Peter. I'm Saul before Paul, because to some my prayers would be considered a Pauline, because instead of crying out for mercy, I'm crying out, murder me, because I know the hatred that lies within me. And when I thought that I had reached my end, when I said, Lord, I'll do a prison ministry before I let her disrespect me again, it was at that moment I heard my mama praying, and I heard my daddy praying, and I felt my family pushing. And when I wanted to tell my vengeance, yes, thank you, I heard my baby boy saying, but I will hate you. Because what kind of a man would I be if I destroyed the very woman who brought him to be? You see, how would he grow up knowing that his daddy killed his mommy? And after all of my debating, after all of my tossing and turning, after all of my kicking and screaming, Lord, why? There was a woman in my corner praying. My mama. There was a woman on her knees praying. My auntie. There was a woman waking up out of her sleep praying for me, my grandmama. There was a woman in my corner who was preaching to my heart, because she refused to save others in her own soul, and her own son's soul be lost. See, she had to hold on so that I wouldn't let go. You see, she had to cry out to him because she knew that her own son wouldn't even speak to him. She had to stand strong so that I knew what it felt like to look weak. You see, she had to stand the test of forgiveness so that I wouldn't beat her. You see, she had to tarry through the night so that I could live in the day. She had to learn to fight in her face so that I could live long enough to see my son's face. You see, she had to take being called a punk to save the very punk who would need her strength later. You see, my mother had to cry in silence so that I would not be lost to domestic violence. You see, the wailing woman does not die in silence. The wailing woman does not wail for what she cannot do. But she wails because she knows that it is God that keeps her from doing what she can do. You see, the wailing woman wails for those who cannot cry out for themselves. The wailing woman wails in silence. The wailing woman will smile in the midst of chaos. Beware of the wailing woman, because the wailing woman will laugh when she ought to be crying. Beware of that wailing woman, because the wailing woman will tarry through the night. She will cry, and she will cry on her knees all through the night so that you can endure it in the morning for your fight. Beware of the wailing woman, because you see, it was that wailing woman in my life. That wailing woman in my life was telling me, don't you quit, don't you stop, don't you say that that's all right, don't you die in the light to be tormented in the dark, boy. Don't you bark, you bite, cry, ah! Ah! And don't mistake my crying for weakness, because I didn't cry out of hormonal fears. I cried because my son's existence wasn't a feeling, it was reality. And I cried because he was just like me. So I couldn't leave him. And see, now I'm talking to you. That woman struggling, that woman being beat, that grandmother tired of travailing, that stepmama who's tired of being stepped over. I'm talking to you and I'm saying, forget all the years that you've been crying and remember why you've been fighting. Remember who you wail for. Remember why you wail. You know what I'm saying? Wail hard. I'm telling you to remember that. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. So I'm saying, cry, and I'm saying, boy, girl, man and woman, get your fight back. Get your fight back. And beware of the wailing woman.